Hi everyone, my name's Anne-Marie. Welcome to this Spellbinders card making project. In this project we're going to be using the Mr. and Mrs. 3D shaded stamp from Spellbinders. We're also going to be using the Ritz decorative accent. Now this is different to the Ritz decorative accents that we've used in Spellbinders card 5, I think it was number 5, where we made the Art Deco card. This is a different design. And then we're also going to be using the Bitty Blossoms die cuts to make flowers. Now, everything I do use will be on my blog. There'll be a full listing of the items that I've used and any extra items. There'll also be links through to the Spellbinders website where you can get more information for the items or you can purchase the items. I do get a little percentage if you purchase through one of my links. That would be great. But all the details are on my blog. So the first thing we're going to need is our base card. This is a white base card and it's a 7x5 inch card on my cardometer. Just slightly smaller than the A5, bigger than the A6, which is the A5 folded in half. I find the 7x5 is the best size of card surface to actually make a card on. That's only my personal view. You might find that you prefer a 6x6 inch card, but I like the 7x5. So I've just used a bone folder to make sure that I've got a nice sharp edge along the top. And as always, we're going to do the inside of our card first, because I know my viewer likes to be able to make a pretty card inside as well as out. So the first thing that I've got is I've got a piece of ivory paper. Now this card is going to be very ivory and white based because I've got a lot of people that think that they can't get the right tone of ivory or they can't get the right tone of white to marry up with whatever they're working with. And I just think that it'd be nice not to get hung up about different shades, because if you're using tone on tone, it doesn't always matter. So I've cut a piece of ivory paper. Now this is roughly 100 to 120 GSM. Again, don't get hung up about the weight either. Some people like to hear what it is, others don't. I personally, if I like it, I use it. And I think that's the best way to be. I don't think it's fun when you have to start thinking, oh, I must use this weight or I must use that. I've used Spellbinders set B for the matting and layering rectangles to make my insert. And it was the largest on set B for it. Just fits perfectly. So that's our base layer. Next, in the actual Art Deco die in the Ritz collection, I'll just show you it. There's 3 dies, the large one, a medium one and the small one. We're going to be using the large and the small. Now the small die, once you've used it, cut it now and embossed it, it will look very similar to these. Now I've got to admit I haven't embossed these, but what I am going to do is just add a little bit of glue on the back of them, and I'm going to attach them to all 4 corners of my card. And I'm going to do the same for all of them. There we go. Just for them to sit like that in all 4 corners of my card. And I know this is a little bit long-winded to see me stick these in, but I thought it was important that you see the full process for this card, because this would be how you were doing it at home. I think it's a little bit too ornate to go through your Xyron. It would go through, but I think we'd be here a long time while I was going round the edges of all the insert bits for the actual adhesive. So that's the last one for the inside. There we go. So we've got all 4 corners now. They will glue down when we fold the card. So the next thing is I've used the large die from the Ritz accent set, and I've slightly trimmed the outside away. That's it cut for the front, and you can see I've cut the fancy edges away, and I've stamped it using the Mr. and Mrs. 3D shaded stamp from Spellbinders just through the centre, and then this way it'll add detail to our insert, and that will sit across the corners that we've just added. There we go. And there's just enough room for you to write your to and from in the card. If you're going to write any more, I suggest you put a letter in with it, or write on the back or something. But that's the inside of our card. So now we're going to make the outside, and we're going to make the outside just as pretty, if not more. So I've just used my bone folder to go along the crease to make that nice and neat. I've cut out a layer in full cardstock this time, in ivory, and I've got double-sided tape on the back of it, and I'm simply going to add this as my base layer for the card, and that will sit nicely through the centre of our card. There we go. Next, I've got the 4 middle smaller of the dies, and we're going to do exactly the same with these as we did for the inside. Now I've got to be honest, these were embossed as well as die cut, whereas the middle one, the insert ones, we only die cut, because for the outside we want a bit more detail, and the inside we want it to still be able to close flat. So I'm just adding a little bit of glossy accents to these and popping them in the corners. Now I'm quite happy for these to curl up at the edges at this section, as long as the rest of them glue down, because I think just that little bit of curl will add interest to the card. So place that one in the corner like so, and then obviously at home you'll have time for it to stick down, but we want to crack on to the finished card, so I just keep going and hope that it'll stick down itself as time goes on. So there we go. So those are our 4 corners ready on our card. Next, the layer that I've cut out, the full layer from the Ritz accent collection, and I've got this on double-sided foam, and it's just quite a thin double-sided foam, because I don't want too much height from these. I just want a little bit of height, because we're going to add the flowers at the end and they've got the extra height. So this is just to add a little bit of interest between the layers. So the extra thing that I have done is, as I've gone round the edge, I've just added some ivory pearls. So we'll just place that through the centre of our card, and that covers the edges of our corners, so that's an extra hold on them. But you see how they're a little bit loose at those edges, but it adds a little bit of shadow. So the next layer I've got is the middle section from the actual Ritz die, and I've stamped it using the Mr. and Mrs. stamp from Spellbinders. I've got this on very thin 3D foam as well, and I've cut away the fancy edges so that you're just left with the middle section, and I'm going to position it over the top of the previous layer like that. Press it down, I've used a Stays-On ink pad for stamping. Now I'm not going to colour it in or add any shadows or anything because I like it as it is. I think it's nice and dramatic and it looks great on the ivory background. But the one thing I am going to add are some flowers from the Bitty Blossom dies. And the first thing, before I just add my flowers, I've made some pearl strips. Now this is a thin piece of card and I've just added some pearl flat cabochon pearls onto it. And I'm simply going to add a little bit of silicone glue, and so these strips will just sit nicely underneath our flowers, but they just add a little bit of extra interest, and especially if you haven't got the patience to make paper curls or you haven't got any pearl ribbon or anything like that, there's no reason why you can't make your own. So we'll slot that one at that side there. And then we're going to cover over these tails of the pearl strips with some flowers. I'm just going to put this to one side for a minute. Now I've already made the flowers and I've used the larger of the dies of the Bitty Blossoms to make the flowers. And I was asked a while ago, how do I make the coloured centres? Well, all I've done is use one of the smaller dies from the Bitty Blossoms, and I've inked it and rolled it and let it dry, and then I've used the larger die from the Bitty Blossoms, but I've left a big hole in the centre, and then I can add some glossy accents in there and slot the smaller die into the centre. Now you might have to wiggle it to get it in there and use a little bit of force, but it will go in if you've made a big enough centre in your large die. So that's how I've got the two coloured centre dies in my flowers. My two colour centre flowers, sorry, in my flowers. And then I've got some extra ones that are just plain. And I thought I won't use the leaves this time because we've got the pearl strips on there. And I'm going to add one of the plain flowers in the centre. Just add a little bit of silicone glue. And then I'm going to add the two that have got the colour in the centre next to them, like that. And that, we can either leave the card as that is now, or we could add some more flowers, but I think I'm going to leave that one as it is because I think that's really pretty, just with the three with the bead strands. And then I've got a white satin ribbon and I've got a pearl embellishment that I've got previously from another company, and I'm just simply going to add a little bit of silicone glue on the back, and I'm going to add that to the top of the card to finish it off. Now I always hold my cards up, but obviously we've got the glue on it, so I don't want everything to fall off. But that's a perfect card for any wedding. Gorgeous on the inside and gorgeous on the outside. Stand up nicely. I'm not going to let go because of my bow being just glued. So I think that would be so well received from any new couple. And it's just so pretty and very easy to make, especially in those colour tones where you're keeping tone on tone with the white and the ivory. Details of everything I have used, again, will be on my blog, so please check it out. There'll be a link below in the YouTube video in the description box to go straight to my blog. If you've got anything to say, you can still say it on YouTube because I do love hearing from you. Please look me up on Facebook. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to see what you've created, and if I've helped or given you any food for thought, then that's great because I love making the videos. So hit that like button, please share, and thanks so much for watching. I shall see you next time.